Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. And welcome to our webinar, BrandTech, the next frontier for driving growth. We have viewers today from North America, South America, and across Europe. So once again, welcome. I'm Ken Sonenclar. I'm Managing Director at Oakland's Da Silva and Phillips Investment Bank, and I'm joined by my colleague and fellow Managing Director, Elaine Riddell. Elaine and I together run the insights practice at Oakland's Da Silva and Phillips. Our bank is also the marketing services and media specialist within the Oakland's network, which is a global mid-market investment bank with offices in 45 countries around the world. We're anticipating a spirited discussion today, and we expect to leave some time toward the end for questions. So if you have a question, please just hit the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and please type your question in. As I say, we hope to get to it toward the end of our hour on the webinar. And we are here for the next hour to discuss the emergence and development of a pair of trends that are bringing new energy, utility, and value to the insights industry, and that's namely ResTech and BrandTech. And as those names imply, it is technology that has fueled those trends, but it is events well beyond the industry that have accelerated and changed the nature of their development and use. And here I'm referring to the COVID pandemic, the global disruption of supply chains, imbalance in labor markets, the surge in global inflation, and the disruption of the post-World War II order that has been caused by the Russian invasion of Ukraine and all of the ensuing humanitarian and economic fallout. Any one of these events could be considered seismic, would be considered seismic in more normal times. But together they have thrown much of what businesses thought they knew about their customers, and we're talking about either consumers or other businesses. They've thrown that understanding up in the air, which leaves us in a world demanding new research that must come faster and cheaper and prove from more agile suppliers of data and insights. So today we have a tremendous panel of three leaders from the insights industry that I'm going to just introduce by name to start with, and then I'm going to ask them each to introduce themselves and tell us in a couple of minutes about their business. Our panelists include Kristof the Wulf, who's the co-founder and CEO of Insights Consulting. That business is headquartered in Ghent, Belgium. Jordi Ferrer, founder and CEO of Sonenclar, which is headquartered in Barcelona. And Matt Kleinschmit, founder and CEO of Reach3, headquartered in Chicago in the United States. So why don't we start with Kristof and then Jordi and Matt. You can tell us a bit about your companies.
Thank you, Ken. Great to be here. So my name is Kristof. I'm one of the co-founders of Insights Consulting back in 1997. So the business exists for 25 years now. We've experienced a combination of organic and inorganic growth. We've done 8 different acquisitions until today to bring it to a bit more than 100 million euro and a bit more than 800 people across 20 locations. Primarily helping out our client with, well, a variety of challenges we can later talk about. The company actually was a spin-off of a business school in Belgium called Ferrer Business School. And yeah, I also had an academic background and career combining the business school and a PhD and being a marketing professor with setting up and growing the business. I happily live here in Belgium, Flanders, West Flanders even, with my wife, my 2 daughters, my 3 Shetland ponies, my chickens, and my dog. So it's nice over here, but I'll not dwell on too many personal details.
Jordi, you want to?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Ken. So thank you for having me. I am Jordi Ferrer. I am co-founder and CEO of Sonenclar. Sonenclar it's a consumer insights platform. And it's an insights platform that are changing the way companies like Nestlé, like Mondelez, like Bayer, like Panasonic, and many others are making decisions. So Sonenclar is a SaaS solution that what it does is allowing its subscription clients to conduct end-to-end market research projects in more than 80 markets or 80 countries globally, accessing more than 140 million consumers, and being able to get the results of this research and the insights in real time. The reason why Sonenclar exists is, in a way, my background has been in traditional market research multinationals in global roles, including strategy and M&A globally for TNS. In my many years in the traditional world of market research, I mean, it was clear to me that consumer research was far too complex, far too manual, slow, and expensive. So as a result of that, clients and decision makers were using it in a very infrequent way and basically basing most of their decision based more on guesswork and intuition than in data. So the vision when we launched Sonenclar is to allow all professionals, experts and not experts of market research, all type of companies, big corporation, mid-market, SMBs, to be able to access consumer insights anytime in real time, and actually became consumer-centric companies. That's at the core of our vision, what we want to enable, so that clients can have access to insights and consumer information based all the day-to-day decisions based on consumer rather than internal discussions. Okay, where we are, we have, let's say, more than 200 brands across corporate and mid-market are using Sonenclar. We are not yet proactively going after SMBs, but that could be a discussion in our panel, in the sense that this is a market as well that is going to happen. If SMBs have not access to consumer insights because of that complexity and cost, and with technology and with platforms like Sonenclar, they will end up being able to use consumer insights and make decisions in a much more efficient way that they would have, or they have done in the past. So we have more than 200 brands are using Sonenclar across pretty much every vertical or any vertical. 50% of our business is in Europe, 40% is Americas, especially Latin America. And we started as well recently our development in the US, and 10% rest of the world. And looking forward to have the discussion today, because I think it's a very timely and relevant discussion to have in this sector.
Thank you. Matt?
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. Dialing in today from Chicago, Illinois, in the heart of the United States. It's a chilly morning here, 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And so I'm excited for a warm discussion. I've been in the business myself for a little over 25 years. I'm the founder and CEO of Reach 3 Insights. I've done a tour of duty, so to speak, in the insights world for several different organizations. And I saw firsthand in the late 90s, sort of the role that technology is going to play in our space, and really embrace that early on in my career. Each of my subsequent roles in my career have really been about bringing technology into the research process in a variety of different fashions. At Reach 3, we are fortunate to be part of a holding company called Rival Group. We launched in 2018. We have two operating companies, Reach 3 Insights, which is a full-service modern insights consultancy, and Rival Technologies, which is a software business that is building from the ground up a next-generation research platform predicated on mobile chat, mobile messaging-based communication. Our two businesses over the last 4 years have grown from a handful of employees to over 130, with significant growth, 75% plus over the last several years. What we're really trying to do as an organization is we believe fundamentally that the insights world is really falling out of sync with how humans communicate with each other. It's a shocking stat, but when you think about the year 2022, the fact that the majority of quantitative research conducted today globally is almost entirely reliant upon email-based survey methodologies it's sort of the elephant in the room. It's a shocking fact. It's something that many clients are increasingly aware of. And of course, it's leading to decreasing response rates, lackluster responses and results, and frankly, a growing lack of confidence in a lot of these traditional firms that are offering these types of approaches, and frankly, insights in general, which is, as a lifelong insights practitioner, something that is probably the most horrifying aspect of it. I believe profoundly in the power of insights to impact and influence change within our client organizations. And I do think that for many of our clients, insights is their superpower that really propels them into new markets with new customers and new types of brand positionings and products. And so our two operating companies, Rival and Reach 3, are really designed to push our industry into what we refer to as the third wave, which is all about a much more organic, natural, and organic, natural, and ongoing way of gathering insights from consumers and stakeholders, and continuously filtering those organic and authentic insights into business strategies. And we purposely set up our business in a way that has both a software business and an insights services business, so that we can have strong degrees of focus in each of those areas, but also a strong degree of overlap in terms of how we bring those two dimensions together on behalf of our clients. So I'm really excited today to participate in our discussion. That's a bit about our organization and myself. Kristof, similar to you, I don't have any Shetland ponies or anything like that, but I do have have a few children. I have 3 boys and a golden retriever. That's about all I can muster at this point here in the city of Chicago. So, but that's a little bit about myself and our organization.
If having Shetland ponies was not probably illegal in Chicago, you would have some.
I don't think so.
Well, I could sit here and listen to the 3 of you all day. You have been such leaders in our industry, and I think the theme of our webinar today is perfectly suited to the innovation that you've been bringing and will continue to bring to our marketplace. Just to kind of step us into the next wave of our discussion today. Our proposition is that effectively ResTech will enable BrandTech. And in our view, BrandTech is the next frontier to drive brand growth. If I channel Ken and kind of distill down, his kind of overview and context for the market, effectively we're living in an era of business agility, and some might call it business resilience. The world is just changing rapidly, I guess is maybe an understatement. And so businesses and brands need always on insights to be hyper aware of market dynamics and the implications in order to respond to the changing needs and wants of consumers that drive brand growth. At the same time, and this is kind of starts to get into the essence of BrandTech, businesses need to be focused on really the full composite of the decisions that need to be made, both tactical and strategic, in order to power the brand, the building of the brand, and the brand growth. So fundamentally, it's that composite of decisions that are the essentials to achieve the business outcome of growth. So our thesis, and actually, Matt, you kind of captured it really well. I should just say ditto. But our thesis is that ResTech, the automated self-serve market research platforms that are really supporting an increasing range of decisions with high quality data collection at a significantly reduced cost, are really making and allowing business agility to happen. I don't think businesses ever imagined the kind of data with the kind of frequency that is needed today, and businesses, not just the large ones, as you were saying, Jordi, but increasingly the smaller organizations, they need the power of that insight as well in order to thrive in this dynamic marketplace. There's an and here. We feel that not only do you need the power of this affordable quality data, but you also need what we're calling human work. You need to have at your disposal those experts, those decision domain experts with deep market knowledge, to work with you arm in arm to effectively give you the confidence in the decisions you're making to power your brand forward. And it's that, so it's effectively ResTech plus human work is the kind of the label we're putting on it, is what we're calling BrandTech. That's the next era, if you will, in our industry. And so where we can see, you know, if I think of the three of you and the firms that you've founded, you're effectively that formula of ResTech plus human work equals BrandTech and equals the next frontier for driving brand revenue growth. So that's our point of view. That's our thinking. So now with that kind of as a stage, I'm going to turn it back to you guys and say, okay, do you think that we're correct in our view of the next frontier? Or are there elements of refinement that you would bring to that thinking? And so I think I'm going to start back at the beginning and start with Kristof and say, you know, Kristof, help us with your thoughts about the next frontier.
Thanks, Elaine. And I think what you said makes a lot of sense. It's actually how we started, and I think it also holds for Jordi and Matt. We've always believed there must be a better way to do it on an engagement level, on a human level, and using smart technology to do it. And I think that's just something that we all embrace, I think all three of us. I think maybe one of the things that we've talked a lot about technology in context of speed and agility, and maybe even to the extent that we've kind of derailed a little bit that speed is the most important thing in this industry, which I don't believe it is. It is, of course, very important. You know, and Ken, you've been touching on all those different, you know, crises or difficult contexts we are facing, but definitely our clients are facing and need to navigate. So you need to be able to quickly make decisions and be on your feet in dealing with a different context. But you also said a second thing, it's not just about agility, it's not just about speed, it's also about, you call it human. I would rather say we would potentially need to rediscover depth of insight. I feel some of that has been lost along the way in an urge to improve and to focus on processes and speed and technology, which we all embrace. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But even in our company, we see that we are bringing some things back that we used to embrace a lot, which is deep qualitative, and not necessarily qualitative, but just, I think, the quality of the work and really working hard to get to an insight and be critical on what we label an insight. I mean, that word, probably we use it a lot throughout different discussions, but it has different meanings to different people. So I think speed, yes, but along with speed, I think depth is something which needs to go back on the table. Many ways to do it. And then a third thing I would say, which I see part of the future as well, is not just speed and depth, but it's also, I would say, helping clients to be the ambassador of the human or the consumer or the buyer or whoever. We call it activation. We put in a lot of energy to help clients, you know, market the market internally. So in various, again, creative ways, also using technology to do that, not just people work, but there are more, you know, Pinterest style ways in which we can disseminate messages in more human and more conversational ways, as Matt pointed out as well, which is, I think, a new job for the research industry. Right. We are not used to that. Typically, we stop the process when we run a workshop or we share a PowerPoint, but then actually the work only begins. So I think for me, yes, it's agility. It is depth, bring it back. And yes, there is then triangulation and blending different methodologies to do that, and activation. And I didn't tell it in the introduction, but I think it's important to say we as an agency, a full service agency, have been building our own technology from within over the last 7 years, which is different from both Jordi and Matt, with 2 operational companies. But I think it's a very deliberate choice to make sure everything we do should be driven through smart technology at the end of the day. There is no way around it. And given the size we have, we also wanted to become not dependent on third parties that much, so we can write our own story in a way, and then build our innovation agenda on top of the technology, and then deliver what clients need. So I'm going to maybe pause here and also allow Matt and Jordi to chip in, but that's a bit how I see it.
Excellent, and thank you for bringing up activation, Kristof, because that, in our view, is part of this next frontier. So, I'm just going to follow the order. So, Jordi, you're on.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I think we are pretty much in the same page on where we are and what the vision here. There are, let's say, some things that both Elaine and Kristof have mentioned that I think it's worth deep diving or discussing it further. So for us, it's not so much. I agree that this is not a race for speed. I think it's a race for agility. No, it's the concept of agility, of being able. Kind of in technology development, we moved years ago from waterfall to agile, let's say, development. This is what should happen in companies. Basically, it's not that you are, let's say, working inwards during months for a campaign and suddenly you go, let's say, you have the whole thing, you go there and you realize that it was not exactly what was supposed to be. I think that has to be an ongoing iteration, an agile iteration with consumers to be able, and an agile development rather than a waterfall. And I think that's a concept that and this is not so much speed. It's about agility and interaction in an ongoing basis with consumers. Second thing is that I think one of the, and it goes to the depth, no, as well, also the actionability. I think one of the challenges that we have as an industry, at least from my view, is that there is a lot of research that end up being nice to have, not a huge amount of data that you don't know exactly what to do with it. We are thinking that the business has to go to something more specific, more narrow, specific to a specific need, a specific decision that can be actioned very quickly. So collecting many data, doing, let's say, big types of research that they end up having, let's say, many pieces of data that then end up not being very actionable, for me, is a challenge as well. So I think that the industry should be moving towards specific decisions, specific actions backed by specific data, and not unless to have data, as it has been happening in some way sometimes in the industry. The second thing is the third thing, which is a bit related. It's going back to the point of your point about BrandTech, Elaine. At least we do not see our vision is we have a do-it-yourself vision. Okay, that vision is not going to happen for the feasible future. I think that thinking that most of the clients, we are working very hard on making our platform as do-it-yourself as possible, and it's super do-it-yourself. I would say that there is still going to be always, for whatever you do, clients will ask for support, for expert support, because they need confidence about what they are doing is the right thing, the way they are reading the results is the right thing. So this combination of technology and human touch or expert touch, I think, is going to be there no matter what technology developments we do. There is going to be always a component. So at the end of the day, we have clients in our portfolio that they are completely do-it-yourself, but a big chunk of their clients, they need some type of support. What I think that we are, but I am not talking about consulting, big consulting. It's about support around a specific need and a specific project. Okay, so yes, I think it's platform, but a human expert touch, I think it's going to be required, always required. Very quickly, 2 last points. One is I think that there is, in terms of depth, there is a next wave of development of consumer insights. But one thing is what we have done, for instance, is automatizing the whole process of accessing to consumers, designing questionnaires, getting the results, etc. There is a next step that we are working on, which is using much more things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, all the technology to really generate insights that, if you do it right, can be even more powerful than a human insight, because at the end of the day, no human has the ability to put together the huge amount of data that you can put together through technology. We are not there yet, I think, as an industry, and that's a big challenge that I think we all have had. It's a dream that the automated insights and automated recommendations, etc. But that's something that we have to move towards. At least we are trying, and I think we are getting into the right direction. We are not there yet, to be honest, but I think this is the end goal. And the last point, to Matt's and to Kristof mentioned that the other challenge that I think industry has is engagement with consumers. So again, I think my view of this world, and Sonenclar's view is clients, you cannot, let's say, thinking that consumers will take 30-minute survey on their desktops at 8 p.m. and there is always going to be someone ready to do it, but the quality of that is because consumers have more and more alternatives of spending their time, of doing other things. So the quality is going to go down as, let's say, if we do not go with things and interactions and experience with consumers that are more engaging than what has been traditionally the way research has been conducted. In our case, for instance, what we do is all the interactions with the consumers are through their mobile phones, and there is a cap on the length of the interview. So we are not, let's say, if we go to the platform and you try to build a survey more than 6 minutes, 7 minutes, the software, the platform is not going to allow it to happen. And everything is designed to have a proper experience from a consumer standpoint in their mobile phones, which is on the go, which is the natural way that these days they are working. I mean, going with something that is completely opposite to what a consumer is expecting to have as an experience, it's just going to give you bad quality and bad data, and therefore wrong decisions based on that. So that was my 5 cents. Sorry.
Thanks, Jordi. And you talk about AI and kind of a phrase that we're hearing more and more is algorithmic insight. So you've got this volume of data that's informing algorithms that are informing next actions. So it's I think AI is going to feature itself quite strongly. And your last point about engagement, I think, is a great setup for Matt. So Matt, give us your thoughts on
Thanks.
you think about BrandTech, the next frontier.
Yeah, one of the things I love about these types of gatherings and panel discussions, and particularly with insight professionals, is there's never a shortage of perspectives and sort of, I get a lot of my colleagues always say, hey, Matt, let's keep this short and concise.
Yeah. What?
And I do my best. I think I agree with a lot of what's been said on the discussion thus far on this. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I think we're all part of this discussion, frankly. I think one of the things that's interesting is to think about the evolution of our business and the industry over the past, 25 to 30 years. And when you, and I think it's really interesting to sort of look at that development because, in the late 90s, early 2000s, you had, obviously, when you think for those of us who are who are old enough to remember those days and even, for the participants on this webinar, may not understand all of the intricacies of a lot of our methodologies and the industry and how it's evolved. But when you go back to the mid 90s and, we were capturing a lot of insights through the old landline phone. And that was the primary way of engaging with consumers and talking to people and capturing data. And then obviously we would have teams of analysts who are, analyzing those results, developing reports and delivering them to clients and that whole process. And in the late 90s, when things started to move online and everyone started to embrace the internet as a data collection tool, it obviously opened up a ton of potential for our industry, and everyone really, moved very quickly into that space, and it ushered in an era of technology innovation, frankly, that I don't think, our industry has ever seen before. And it's been, an incredible experience to live through that, through the early 2000s, 2010s. I think of that era as sort of, the wave of tech for tech's sake. So many providers sort of came into our industry, a lot of them external technology companies that came into our industry who didn't necessarily have foundational understandings of insight methodologies and different approaches and applications and those sorts of things. But they had some really cool technology that was very readily, in many cases, embraced and adopted by folks like myself and others who were, researchers, kind of starved for new ways of doing things. But what it also brought into our industry, I think, is this sort of idea that, technology can be the answer to everything. And that, we got into this era where it was about, I call it the shiny new object. Every year or every 2 years, there was the shiny new thing that was pushed out to all of our clients. And everyone sort of was wondering, oh, this is great. And it became this sort of, wave upon wave of the new flashy item that, had the promise of all you had to do is push a button and you would have your insights and your strategies, and it would be able to be implemented throughout your organization, and voila, your job is done. And I think, clients became, they embraced that initially. And I think over time, clients started to understand that there was, that wasn't really the be all end all. And in many cases, pushing that button didn't exactly do what they wanted it to do. And frankly, I think many clients thought, and they embraced a lot of these sort of, early stage technology for technology's sake, sort of data collection approaches or insight platform approaches that, didn't live up to the promise. And I think it, for better or for worse, there's a generation of clients out there, and many of our clients today, frankly, and we hear it from clients all the time, that, felt like in many cases they got burned by this sort of, over reliance on tech for tech's sake that has this, this promise of being able to answer every question and really an inability to do so. So you see this pendulum kind of swing back and forth, and you also then started to see this more embrace as there's so much tech out there, there's so much big data, and the promise of being able to not have to ask anybody anything and just mine passive sources of data and be able to get the questions, or your questions answered. It became this idea of, okay, well, now we have all this data, that's great, but how are we going to get through it? And what does it really mean? And why? We have the what, but we don't have the why. And so you started to see the pendulum swing back to more sort of human-based methodologies and organizations that were really focused on that. I think where we are today, when I think about the blend and the continuum and this pendulum and where it's swinging, is I think we're in a really exciting time, frankly, between these two worlds of, tech and human, insight professionals, tech and services, this evolution, as you're calling it, from res tech into brand tech. I think what we're moving into, which is really, really exciting as a practitioner, is this idea of the way that technology can actually create a more human experience. So tech becomes part of an underlying element of the overall practice of what we do, as opposed to the primary focus. And in doing that, technology has advanced in such a way through things like, obviously artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other types of approaches that, and also, consumers and citizens and people have become so used to integrating technology into every facet of their life that our overall society is moving to this place where tech is expected to be a part of the process. Yeah. And what I find really cool right now is that this technology, and particularly in when I think of our business at Reach 3 and Rival, in the Rival group, what we really think it is, where we're going, is this idea of leveraging technology to create something that actually makes things more human. And the resulting outputs are actually this degree of depth and richness that you don't find with types of approaches that are so much about the technology. We hear a lot of clients saying, I don't need another dashboard. I have so many dashboards. They don't need data, they need insights. And in many cases, they don't need dashboards so much as they need stories that activate those dashboards within their stakeholders, because they can't just push out a set of data to a bunch of their non-research stakeholders and expect those folks to know what to do with that. And so, I think I'm saying a lot of the same themes that Jordi and Kristof have mentioned. Yeah. I just think that we're on the cusp of this really interesting phase where, technology becomes something that can actually drive a more human experience. And so with our organization, we're big believers in the idea of mobile chat, of mobile messaging based communications. Almost every person on Earth who's connected to any type of technology is communicating through mobile chat today. And what we found in the research that we've done and the research on research that we do, where we're looking at side-by-side methodologies and comparing results, is that when people engage through a mobile conversational sort of approach, and we refer to what we do as conversational insights in that sense, is people forget about the tech and they let their guard down and they just share. And at the end of the day, as insight professionals, that's what we're trying to get at. We're trying to get at stream of consciousness, human sharing. Tell me about why you feel that way. Tell me why you think about this. Tell me why you behave in this fashion. Why? And the way to get at the really depth and richness in the resulting insights is to get people to let that guard down and just give that sharing. And what we found is that a lot of the more sort of traditional technology for technology's sake types of platforms, methods, approaches, they're still so focused on the tech that it actually inhibits the consumer's ability to actually let their guard down and give that type of sharing. And what we're trying to do is to have the tech actually make people open up and share. And I think we're seeing incredible results with that. Frankly, we're seeing a degree of depth and richness in the resulting insights that, frankly, I've never seen before in my nearly 30 years in the business. And I think that really helps to explain why our organization has been growing, 70% year over year for the past several years. And I really am very bullish and optimistic about where this industry is headed when we as insight professionals start to sort of leverage tech as an enabler, as opposed to something that is the be all end all of what we're providing to our clients. So that's something that I think is just my 2 cents on the blend of res tech and brand tech and the evolution of the space between technology and human practitioners.
Well, it's interesting. I've long been of the view that, in fact, market research, generally speaking, is a means to an end. The end is understanding your consumers with that fine depth, so that you can inform your decisions. And so you're really reinforcing that, all of these component pieces are the ingredients to get to that depth. And so you've all kind of said something similar, which is, it's all about that depth of insight. It's breaking down the silos between quant and qual and ethnography and conversations and being engaging with the consumer in order to have the opportunity to get some of their time, so we can, develop that appreciation and be an agile organization. So that's a bit of a mouthful, but if I come back to the overarching umbrella, what with everything that the three of you have said, what do you see as the future of creating that depth of insight that enables business agility? So, I'll just kind of go to Jordi first.
Just to add on to that question a bit, just to weave back to some of the thoughts that have been expressed so far. I'm wondering from each of your perspectives, what are the bottlenecks that are perhaps standing in the way of and by no means do we believe that res tech firms must morph into brand tech firms. That's not how we see the industry at all. Res tech firms can grow and be enormously successful, simply focusing on what they do. Brand tech, while it does layer onto great data, is in a sense a separate sub-market. But I'm interested, I say, tying into what Elaine was saying, is it the over-reliance on email? Is it the quality of the surveys? Is it client expectation? Is it client expectation specifically for speed? What is it that is that is standing in the way right now of res tech becoming what we think it can be, or even and the same for for brand tech and res tech separately?
Thank you, Ken, and thank you for that clarification, because it's not an evolution. These are just distinct expertise that will exist in the marketplace. So anyway, not to say more, I think that's the great question. Thank you. So I'll start with Jordi.
Yeah. No, if I take comments from both from Ken and Elaine, but first is what is standing in the way of ResTech? I mean, ResTech, so platforms with expertise and with support, I don't think that are gonna, I mean, again, it has to be some, I don't know if that's the definition, that we move them to what you call BrandTech, or so, which are research tech plus. So there is going to be always the need of some, let's say, human intervention and support at some levels. Okay, that we look at the market at three levels. One is people that buy research, people that are clients that are already buying research. Second is people that buy research and they have already adopted a consumer insights platform. And three, people that do not run research at all. Okay, the SMBs. For us, we are going after the two ones. And this, why research, let's say, people that are spending research have not adopted technology. Technology, I'm talking about simpler type of, let's call it consumer insights platform as a wider term. For us, it's a combination of factors, and one is there is a cultural change in a way. What we as well, and in general, consumer insight platform changed the way. I mean, clients are used to go. I have a need. I go to an agency. I get a proposal. I run a pretest, and and that's it. Okay. With consumer insights platform and through SaaS models, etc., it's changing the mindset. Okay, now you have an ongoing access to a platform. It's not related to one specific project. You have a subscription. You have it there to chat and to launch projects when you need it. And that's a change of mindset because it's not related to one specific project, one specific need, and one specific budget. For other projects, it's completely different. It's moving towards a different way of buying, using consumer insights as they have been using it for forever. So that's one. Okay, that's a barrier. Sometimes clients get it, some clients do not get it. For us, if a client do not get it, we are not working with them. So because no, I want to launch a project. We, for instance, we believe in the concept of you have to buy into the logic of being always on with consumers, being able to launch, interact, and launch projects every time you need it, rather than having to raise a PO, rather than having, let's say, to approve to have a proposal, because that goes against agility. And that's a barrier, for a bottleneck. The second thing, it's as well this perception of do it yourself, ResTech, this is technology, some type of concern about, okay, do I able to do it on my own, or I'm expert enough? So this is why it's important to have this human intervention and this human support, because that's clearly a barrier. And that's to me something very important. And then to what you were saying, Elaine, and that to me that's some of the bottlenecks or some of the barriers, or in terms of adoption technology, or specifically consumer insights platform. The other one, it's about, okay, your question about the depth of research, no, and the challenge of, let's say, there are two things there. My view in the market is going to be, this market is going to be not polarized, but it's going to be, there is needs. So it depends. The clients have many needs. You have, if you go, you have discovery needs, you have testing to test something. It's different needs, and I don't think there is an answer, the same answer for all the needs of the client. I mean, depending on what your need is, there is going to be more human need. It's going to be a methodology. It's going to be a more conversational because you are trying to discover and you cannot run it. And it depends. To me, at least in my view, there is not a general, let's say, answer to that. It depending very much on the client need, the challenge. It depends. And having said that, I think that what is going to happen in the market, if I look at the market as a business, there is going to be a chunk of business that's going to be productized or technologized. And there is going to be a business that is still going to be human driven and use it because guru based, a guru, an expert, because it's super strategic. And that is going to be, and there's going to be a combination of things. I don't think that is going to be black or white. There is going to be, let's say, well, it's going to be both, and it's going to be depending. Some needs are going to be well covered through technology. Technology is going to evolve. It's not the same what technology allows now that what allowing 3 years ago in terms of insights, in terms of automated insights. So the technology is going to dictate as well how far we can go that route. But I'm sure that there's going to be always a room for both. But technology is going to take part of the part of the cake, or part of the pipe. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm going to maybe further
No.
build on you, Jordi, just because I think what you said there is very, very important, and I fully subscribe to. I think one thing we didn't touch upon when we were answering your first question is the clients. You know, we talk about tools, we talk about participants, we talk about analysis techniques, we talk about, you know, but it all starts from the client need and the client problem. I think if you want to go into depth, it all starts from deep understanding of what are the real challenges and understanding the language and the context of the clients before jumping into tools or data or mixing and matching and or activation for that matter. So I think, you know, the way we try to do it at least is we structure our teams around sectors and clients. So it's really bringing together all the bright minds, understanding all the key challenges that sectors and clients are running into, and bring them as close as we possibly can in hybrid ways, of course, today, to really get under the skin, also cultivate a mindset among them to dare to challenge clients, which is not easy, as we know, but still, I think in a modern business relationships, that's something we need to do, and that's our responsibility. That's the only way, and then I fully agree to what Jordi was saying, this is the starting point to think about what's the best approach. And we also partially embrace DIY. Our platform can be used by clients. I think 6 clients, 7 clients are using it independently of us. We are not doing anything. Yes, we're sometimes giving advice and support, but it's the way they like to handle it. I mean, we need to respect the way clients are structured and organized and not impose ourselves onto them, because that's simply not working. We know also clients, you know, they take turns. Sometimes it's centralized decision making, then decentralized, then, you know, how budgets are managed. We need to follow their rhythm and flex with the client to make sure we do what matters. And I think that's how we look at it. Part of our answer as well is trying to make sure we can support them in a broad variety of challenges. And for this, well, we need a global business, and we need a lot of people, and we need strong technology to all deliver against that need. One of the more recent innovations we put on the market is what we call Consumer Connects, which is nothing to do with insights. Actually, it's not the question of the client. The client wants to feel and get a sense of understanding of who the consumer actually is without necessarily having a question nor needing an insight. It's about creating business intuition, if you want. It's creating some sort of aha. And I think that's a service that is rapidly expanding, because, you know, the big CPG headquarter businesses, and of course, think about COVID, we have created more distance from everyday lives and cultures. So, you know, I think coming back to Jordi, indeed, it's about starting from what clients need and then responding optimally to that. And yes, if we want depth, we need great participants, which definitely is a big problem area. And I think it's still a big elephant in the room. I also agree, Matt, that shortening surveys and making it more natural and human definitely is part of the answer. But we also have to challenge ourselves. Where do we recruit those people? And I think we haven't cracked that code yet, far from. And we also know with younger generations, it's much more tougher than ever. So I think we are trying and working hard to solve all those issues, but we cannot solve it independently. It will be by working together as an industry to solve, especially the participant dimension. Is something which is extremely challenging to go into depth. And I'm not talking about fraudulent respondents, you know, we're just talking about engaged people willing to work with us. And, you know, they need to see something back more than an incentive, you know, and I think that's also a brand responsibility, a client responsibility. I'm helping you. Now you should, you know, return a favor in a way and make it a reciprocal relationship. Again, lots of big challenges. I mean, we are here to just share some rough ideas, but I think the implementation of this is tough. Yeah, that's just a couple of thoughts on top of what Jordi was saying.
Thank you, Kristof. So, Matt, what would you add?
I just, you know, those are the great perspectives. I think, you know, bang on. There are a lot of issues. The participant issue obviously is big, and how do you engage folks, especially younger people? obviously a huge issue. And I think more importantly for our space and our practice and our industry is this idea of, how do we fit in a world of constraints? Because everyone is constrained. They're time constrained, your screen constrained. You don't have the ability to do what you did. When I talked earlier about, moving everything online, well, that was like, we were in the Garden of Eden as a researcher, because you could engage someone for as long as you wanted with a large screen and do all kinds of interactive things and, really engage them in this newfangled thing called, online, computer-based surveys. You can't do that anymore. And you have to bring an engaging experience to a phone in a way that, we believe mimics how people actually, engage and interact with each other through those same channels. I think the big thing in terms of like keeping, the bottlenecks of moving this forward with clients, a lot of it, frankly, is just inertia. And it takes time. Businesses are oftentimes slow to embrace and adapt to, newfangled types of things unless they see very clear benefit. And the risks of doing that sometimes very clearly outweigh the potential rewards. So we as an industry, both collectively together as well as our individual organizations, have to do a very good job of showcasing the value and benefits in a way that potentially gets beyond some of the overly simplistic things like speed and cost. Obviously, those are big drivers of choice and buyer choice and that sort of thing. But what we need to do as an industry is to showcase sort of the value proposition around what does depth and richness and insights do to an organization. What client organizations, what kind of strategies and tactics can they employ in a much more effective way? What kind of business outcomes can they achieve through that greater depth and richness? And so I find, a lot of times it just takes time for clients to embrace new things. We oftentimes joke around in the industry that, no client ever gets fired for hiring Ipsos, because they're a well-known name. Everyone knows them. They know the techniques, et cetera. And I worked at Ipsos for several years myself and have a lot of great friends that are still there. But there's also, I think, a lot of times our buyers, insight professionals at client organizations, sometimes can be more risk adverse than other types of buyers. And so, I think this speaks directly, Elaine, to the idea of like, how do we move this brand tech into the enterprise, the modern enterprise, into client organizations? I think we need to speak more broadly about the value and benefits of that, not just to the insights buyer, but to the marketing organization and other stakeholders, and really show these organizations how activation of the depth and richness in insights from some of these new methodologies and techniques, how it can actually, benefit their organization, the actions they can take and the outcomes that they can achieve. And so those are, I think, are kind of that's the addition I would say onto the previous statements. Is I just think that there is a risk adversity in our industry with a lot of buyers. And I think we as an industry have to do a better job of sort of showcasing the benefits and the value proposition of what we do to modern business today. We historically are very bad at that as an industry, and I think we need to do much, much, much better.
If I may add, sorry, Elaine, to jump in here. This is not about automation, technology, efficiency, and agility, or depth, quality. I mean, this is not the perception of, okay, I take a risk of using something more agile because it could be low quality. I don't think that for us, this is completely not the case. Our approach is technology, efficiency, agility with quality, even better quality that we measure that you can do, let's say, through a traditional way. Is not a trade-off between efficiency, technology, and agility, and quality and depth. That's at least, and that's not in our experience, the perception of, we don't see it. I mean, it was probably when we started, the clients, I don't think that the clients have a perception of risk of working with a company, a ResTech, or it's more a cultural change. What we see is not a risk. I think, oh, this is going to be quality, because we've been fortunate to having very big names as clients, people that are super experts on marketers. So it's highly demanding in terms of quality, highly demanding on what it is that they need. And they are using, Sonenclar, or they are using other, let's say, platforms out there. The thing is that there is going to be, my point here is, for me, it's more, there is, at least in our space, there's been a there are hundreds of, let's say, in a way, building a technology that allows you to launch a survey and get the results and put in a dashboard, it's easy, it's no brainer. You can do it, let's say, in 1 week. To do it in a way that it's research proven, is research enough, in meaning that you are automatizing the right things, doing everything that needs to be done in order to make it, let's say, equal in terms of quality, representativity, etc., that you would do, let's say, using traditional. That's the tricky part. So, and sometimes you put the perception, and I agree with that perception, risk could be sometimes because you have, let's say, platforms that are, let's say, coming from a pure technology standpoint with no clue about what research means and what the challenge is, and getting, let's say, doing a bad job in terms of everything when it comes to quality, data collection, everything, the quality measures, etc. So for me, when you take and in our case, it's expertise of research, it's even beyond that. I think we are experts on technology, but we are more experts on research, and that's super important. And that perception of risks, it goes away when that is the case. Sorry,
so we only have a couple of minutes left. The hour has sort of flown by, and it seems like all of you are on a mission to save clients from themselves, to some degree here. That you're trying to, hammer away at the importance of depth. And insights. Just as to say, we only have a minute left. Can I ask each of you quickly? I mean, we are supposedly entering some sort of downturn. We hear stories anecdotally about clients tightening budgets, putting off work, trying to bring more work in-house. It just go around the table, the virtual table, quickly. What are you seeing out there right now? Is that the case? Are your businesses being disrupted by tightened budgets, or is that just the odd anecdote right now? Kristof, you want to?
It depends from client to client. I think what Jordi and Matt also shared. I think clients have been experimenting, and we need to keep experimenting, right? Because the world evolves, and we need to be, evolving with change around us, and so do clients. And we are trying to help them the best way we can. I do believe some clients are coming back from maybe a bit of overconsumption of technology, saying, "Well, just help me, right? I'm fed up with using technology and putting my own people on the technology to get it done because it's challenging. Even with today's technology, it's challenging, and there's no right or wrong. I think it's all about making sure it fits your plan, it fits your characteristics, it fits your future." And we're as agencies here to support and listen and make sure those clients get the right level of support and the right tools, whatever we can do to help them with. So there's no clear-cut answer or direction. I think it's pendulums going swinging left and right, and rebalancing and rebouncing whenever the client feels it is needed. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Jordi, how
in terms of whether we are seeing, let's say, stretch or pressure on budgets and as some element of downturn, I think for us actually, we are seeing it, and that's a good thing for us, to be honest, because this is when the clients are looking for more cost-effective solutions. More, let's say, this is not a bad thing for us as a business. Because we are able to help them to conduct more research with the same budget. So that's with a smaller budget. So what at least we are seeing, and again, it changes between countries and verticals, etc. But you could say that, yeah, there is, let's say, pressure on budgets in general. We see that. And there is at the same time pressure of getting more and more because consumers are changing more than ever. There is, let's say, COVID now, there is all the inflation. There is many things changing consumer behaviors. And there is a moment, a perfect storm, I would say, because there is budget constraints, and at the same time, there is more need than ever understanding consumers, how consumers' behaviors are changing, and what it means for my brand. What do I have to do in order to be effective in this new environment? So all these things were coming together. It's a challenge for clients, and we are there to help. But yeah, we see this combination of budget, let's say, tensions, as well as the need for more insights.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would just add to that, everybody, I know we're just conscious of time, is that, recessions historically have been good for the insight space. And, obviously in many cases, we've been sort of on a bit of a topsy-turvy kind of run for the last, 3 years. I think that what I see right now with a lot of clients is a bit of uncertainty, and uncertainty is not necessarily a good thing initially. But once people get comfortable with that uncertainty, then they tend to, invest and embrace and sort of understanding how that uncertainty and the current market conditions are impacting, their customers, their prospects, their stakeholders, et cetera. And so I think, there was a bit of an over exuberance there for the last 2 years with a lot of organizations in terms of hiring and the job market, and just a lot of sort of frothiness, I would say, in a lot of business activities. And so I think a lot of businesses are using this time to sort of, right size and make sure that they have their investments in the right place and their budgets aligned for next year. And so, that said, I think, we continue to hear very strong, positive results from a lot of our clients, a lot of bullishness about their underlying business models, those sorts of things. And so I think it's more about, what is this adjustment going to do to the overall economy and to, consumer spending? And we shall see. I don't think the answer is out there yet. And there is no right or wrong way to go about it. The key is like, I come back to this idea that, the insights providers and insights in general can really be a superpower for organizations and how to navigate any type of market context. And we as an industry are well positioned to be able to deliver that for our clients. And so I'm optimistic and excited about next year and where things are headed across all of the industries that we work in.
Well, I just want to say, the theme that's threading through these last, number of minutes is the notion of working to help clients with their business outcomes and bringing together the tech, all of the pieces that we spoke about to drive business outcomes. And I think that is, another level of the next frontier. It's BrandTech in order to support or to enable business outcomes, and it's helping organizations with keeping the end in mind, I think, and that's what you said, Kristof. Keep the end in mind. So this has been an excellent conversation, and I think we could go further and longer, but our time is up. This has been tremendous. You can never know how the conversation is going to unfold, but it unfolded more than we could have hoped. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you all.